Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session. It's good to have you all here. I see a lot of people coming in. Welcome. Eu sou Luiz Chantry. Prazer estar com vocês aqui. Welcome to our session, to our Berlitz Talks second session. Hello, Giovanna. Say hi. Say hello.
Hello.
And then I'm going to ask Caio to say hello, and then we're going to hand it to our star of the night, our guest speaker. Hello, Caio.
Hello, welcome. Good night, welcome.
Yeah. And hello, Eli. Thank you so much for being here with us. We're very happy to have you here, and thank you for being from such a far place from here and being ready to be with us at this time. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Okay, do you want me to start? I thought we were just doing introductions.
I think so. Let's close our cameras, Giovanna, Caio, and myself. Guys, if you want to use the view option on the right, you can have the speaker and you can use the questions and answer, the raise hand, and enjoy the session. Thank you. Have a good one, Eli.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Yonetsugi, but please call me Ellie. I live here in Japan, where I've lived for 30 years, working for Berlitz Japão, and I'm in charge of curriculum for the kids and teens programs. So writing some of the textbooks that we use for young learner lessons. But originally I'm from Scotland, and that's what our talk today is about, my home country. I don't know if you're familiar with Scotland, but Scotland is in the north of the UK, and we have a population of only 5.5 million, but it's a country that punches above its weight. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll understand what punching above its weight means. I want to try and make this presentation as interactive as possible. So I'm going to ask you questions. If you want to answer, you could either type in the chat or you can raise your hand and Caio or Luis will unmute you and you can shout out your answers. So let's start with our first question. So when you think of Scotland, what do you think? What's your image of Scotland? Scotland is...
So guys, this is the time you can write on the chat, or if you raise your hand, we will let you speak.
Nobody has any image of Scotland. Oh, we have some.
So here we have a kilt. Samantha Franco says kilt.
Very good.
Renato Santos says Mel Gibson movie. And anonymous attendee says whiskey, Eli.
Of course, whiskey. Yes. All right then. So hopefully, but again, by the end of this presentation, I hope your image of Scotland is maybe a little bit more well-rounded than just kilts and whiskey. Also, yeah, we are quite famous for kilts and whiskey. All right then. So let me tell you a little bit about Scotland. Scotland has terrible weather. It's cold, it's grey, and it's very wet. It rains all the time. We also have terrible food. This is our national dish. It's called a haggis, and haggis is made from a sheep's stomach. And inside the stomach, you put the heart and the liver and the intestines, and then you boil it in water. And that's haggis. That's our national dish. But actually, it's really delicious. Terrible music. I don't know if you've heard the bagpipes, but they sound a little bit like two cats fighting. And terrible fashion. I don't know if the Bay City Rollers were famous in Brazil, but that's one of our biggest ever pop groups. So yeah, there's lots of things that are not so good about Scotland, but we're very good at inventing things. And in today's presentation, I want to tell you a little bit about some of the things that Scottish people have invented or discovered, or founded. So let's start at home. So here's another question. Looking around your house, what do you think might have been invented by someone from Scotland? Any ideas?
We have some questions coming in. Let me see. It's actually the question and answer that they're using as a chat because we haven't put a chat option. So we're going to use that like that, okay?
Sure.
No Idea by Meire Pinto. Musical instruments, Vitor Guedes. Renato Santos, can we Google it? No.
No, that's cheating. No Googling.
So we have musical instruments and no idea, Eli.
Okay, so low expectations. Okay, so let's start. The first thing that was invented by a Scotsman was the television. The television was invented in 1926 by John Logie Baird. And actually he invented the color television in 1928. Our second Scottish invention is the telephone. The telephone was invented in 1876 by Alexander Graham Bell. Now, Graham Bell's mother and wife were both deaf. So he was very interested in sound technology and was researching ways to help his mother and his wife hear. And that's how he got into that kind of technology. The first ever words spoken on the telephone were, "Mr. Watson, please come here. I want to see you." So he telephoned his assistant in the next room. Now, at that time in English, when we met someone, we would say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. But Alexander Graham Bell thought, well, we can't say that on the telephone because the other person might be, on the other side of the world. It might not be morning, afternoon, or evening. So we need a new word to answer the telephone. So his idea was to answer the telephone to say ahoy. But actually it was Thomas Edison who said, no, hello is a better word. So the reason we say hello on the telephone is because of Thomas Edison. Our next invention, surprisingly from Scotland, is the refrigerator. So even though Scotland is a very cold country, I think it was 1740, William Cullen invented the technology for refrigeration. So I don't know if you know how a refrigerator works, but if you look at the back of your refrigerator, it's very hot. That's because if you heat a gas very quickly, the air around the heated gas becomes very cold. So that's how refrigeration works. And that concept was discovered by William Cullen in 1740. But the first actual refrigerator wasn't invented until maybe 100 years later. Our next invention is the toilet. So the Scots people invented the toilet. Although, of course, we had toilets before then, but toilets were always outside your home because they smelled very bad. But in 1775, Alexander Cumming invented the S-bend. So if you look at the back of your toilet, there's a pipe that's in an S shape. That's what stops the toilet from smelling. So the smell goes down, but it can't come back up, that pipe. And because he invented that, then you could bring toilets into your home. So Scots people invented the indoor toilet.
Elise,
okay.
sorry to budge in, but this was something that is remarkable. When you said the S-bend, that is really difficult to explain, but it is the main reason why we today have sinks, we have toilets, and we have everything in regarding the plumbing in the house, right?
Yes, so that water can go down but doesn't come washing back up. Yeah, so yeah, very important invention. But my favorite invention from the home is the toaster. So I don't know if you guys in Brazil use toasters, but it's my favorite because it's very Scottish, the way that was invented. So this lovely looking chap here is Alan McMasters. And in 1893, he was working for the Underground Railway Company. And his job was to invent an electric lighting system for the Underground Railway. But one day or night, he'd been drinking whiskey, of course, and he drank half a bottle of whiskey, and he, built this lighting system, but it was burning hot. So of course he realized he couldn't use it, but he'd had like a sandwich on his desk next to the light, and it burned the toast. And so that's how the toaster was invented, by a drunk Scotsman by accident. And interestingly, he invented the toaster 35 years before sliced bread. Okay. So those are just some of the inventions around your house that are invented by Scots people. Now let's have a look at on the street. Again, does anyone have any ideas, without Googling, what things you see on the street were invented by Scots people?
Guys, you can raise your hand or you can type in the question and answer, because we forgot the chat feature. So if anybody wants to ask Eli or say something, just let me know. Eli, we have light posts, light signs.
Okay, good ideas.
Anything else, guys?
So someone raising their hand.
Eli, you don't believe it.
What?
Hamilton has just said asphalt.
Oh my goodness, guess what our first invention is? Asphalt. So asphalt was invented by John Macadam in the 1820s. And actually in English, we sometimes call it asphalt, but we also call it tarmac. And the mac is from John Macadam, who invented. So that's one of several inventions that Scottish people did to make your journey to work a little bit more comfortable. So we made the streets covered in asphalt so that it was nice and comfortable to ride on. We also invented the pneumatic tire twice. So, the rubber tire on your bicycle that's filled with air. So the first Scotsman to invent the pneumatic tire was a guy called Robert Thomson in 1847. And he invented one, but once the air escaped, there was no way to put more air in. So about 40 years later, in 1887, a vet called John Dunlop invented the pneumatic tire that we use today, where you can pump air into it, for his small son's bicycle, his tricycle, actually. And that man's name was John Dunlop. So that's why the tire company today is called Dunlop. Also, the pedal bicycle. The pedal bicycle was invented by Kirkpatrick Macmillan in 1839. Sadly, though, in 1842, Kirkpatrick was put into prison because he knocked over a pedestrian with his bicycle and injured him quite badly. So he's also invented the first bicycle accident. The train was invented by a Scotsman. Well, actually, the steam locomotive, John Watt invented in 1775, the steam engine. And the steam engine is the basic technology that we use in the first steam locomotives, in factories. Because of John Watt's steam engine, that's what powered the Industrial Revolution and all the engines that you would find in woolen mills or coal mines, things that would lift the elevators up and down. So that's like a very, very important invention. Now, so far, all our Scottish inventors are dead. Scots people were very good about 100 years ago, but not all of them are dead. Grand Theft Auto was also created by two Scots people. And Grand Theft Auto is the fourth most popular video game in the world, but because it was invented by Scots people, and Scots people are very careful with money, it's the #1 most profitable video game in the world. It has something like a revenue of $6 billion a year. It's ridiculous.
Eli, in Brazil, we call it GTA.
Okay.
GTA, GTA, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if any of you guys play the game, but if you do, there's a bridge called the Kincaid Bridge. That's actually the 4th road bridge in Edinburgh. So there you go. That was created by 2 Scots people. But the invention that I want to tell you a little bit more about is the cash machine, or the ATM. And this was actually invented twice, both times by Scotsmen. So let's look at our first guy. So the guy in the first picture here is John Shepherd Barron. Now, one day he'd finished work and he wanted to go out for a drink with his friends. So he ran to the bank, but he missed the bank. So he couldn't withdraw money, so he couldn't go drinking with his friends. So that night he was lying in the bath and he was thinking, you know, why can't I just get money from a machine? I can get chocolate from a vending machine. I should be able to get money. So that's what started him thinking about the ATM. And you know, when you withdraw money from a cash machine, you have to put in your PIN number. And the reason that the PIN number is only 4 digits long, originally the PIN number was 6 digits long. But John Shepherd Barron tested this out on his wife, Caroline. And Caroline could never remember 6 digits. So that's why today PIN numbers are only 4 digits long, because Caroline Shepherd Barron couldn't remember 6 numbers. Now, John Shepherd Barron's first cash machine was opened on the 27th of June in 1967 at Barclays Bank in England. But his system was quite different. He used what's called a radioactive check. So it was a check that had a radioactive substance in it that identified it. Unbeknownst to him, at the exact same time, another Scotsman, James Goodfellow, was also working on a cash machine that used a bank card. So actually, the cash machine we use today is James Goodfellow's, but because his first machine didn't open until the 30th of June, 1967, John Shepherd Barron is considered the inventor of the cash machine. So there you go, that's the cash machine. Okay, our next category is medicine. And this is actually one where there are hundreds of things that were discovered by Scotsmen. I don't know, maybe because of the terrible weather, we get sick a lot. So we had to invent lots of things, but I picked just 5 or 6 of my favorite. Any ideas what medical things might have been invented or discovered by Scots people?
Let's see if people can guess. Guys, writing the question and answer. Eli, we have Samantha Frankel with a stethoscope.
Ooh, that's good. I don't know who invented the stethoscope. Sorry.
Anything else, guys? Let me see. Some vaccine, Vitor Guedes says. Hamilton says, Hamilton is Googling, Hamilton. You're Googling because you're nailing all of them. Awesome. He got penicillin, Eli. And Mary, she says anesthesia. And Jarbas says antibiotics. So why don't you give us look, a lot of people. Does anybody wanna say something? Just raise your hand and I'll give you the mic.
There's a couple of people raising their hands.
Yeah, really? I can't see.
Can you not see him? Yeah, Hamilton keeps trying to speak. He's always raising his hands, but nobody will listen to him. That's why.
Caio, can you help me? Caio?
Yes. Just give me a second. Is Samantha. There you go, Samantha.
Hi,
Samantha.
Hello. Actually, I don't have much to say. I was just guessing it was a stethoscope. I guess my friends have more to say.
That's good. It means you're not cheating, Samantha. You're not using Google. Well done. All right, then. So let's take a look at some of the things that were discovered by Scots people. So the first one that was very important was the hypodermic syringe. That was invented by Dr. Alexander Wood in 1851. And that meant that doctors were able to apply medicine internally, which made a huge difference in how they could treat people. The second one is the ultrasound machine, so that you could see a baby before it's born and discover if there are any problems. That was invented by Dr. Ian Donald in 1958. Our next one, as you guessed, was anesthesia. And there are three firsts for anesthesia. In 1842, chloroform was first used as an anesthesia on animals by Robert Glover. And then 5 years later, Sir James Simpson was the first person to use anesthesia on humans in an operation. And then the first dentist to use anesthesia was 1848, a year later, Francis Brodie Imlach. So 3 Scots people who pioneered the use of anesthesia. The technology for cloning, I don't know if you're familiar with Dolly the sheep, but Dolly the sheep was created at Edinburgh University in Scotland. In 1996, she died of natural causes at age 7. So Dolly the clone sheep. A very important discovery was insulin. So Dr. John MacDonald in 1922 discovered how to, people had known that insulin was useful for diabetics, but they didn't know how to prescribe it for patients. So he was the one who discovered how to do this. And that was life-changing, because until insulin was discovered, most diabetics, wouldn't live into their teens. So, he changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of people. But that's not even the most important discovery in the medical field by Scots people, because, as some of you said, penicillin, or the first antibiotic, was discovered by a Scotsman. Again, a very kind of Scottish discovery. This is Alexander Fleming. Now, Alexander Fleming was a farmer's son, so came from a very poor part of Scotland, but self-educated, went to university, and he became a scientist. And he was actually working on trying to find a vaccine for the flu, for influenza, because remember in 1918, there'd been the big Spanish flu epidemic. But he was very, very untidy. Look at this picture of his desk, you can see. So what happened was he'd been working with some cultures. So you can see the glass jars he's using. And he put the flu vaccine on the culture and gone on vacation for 2 weeks. And when he came back, there was mold on it. But he realized that the mold had killed the virus. So he worked on that, and then a year later, he discovered penicillin, the first ever antibiotic. And it's estimated that penicillin has saved the lives of up to 200 million people so far. So an incredible discovery. And he gave it to the world for free, because he was very strongly of the opinion that companies shouldn't patent any medicine that could help save a life, and people shouldn't profit from medicine, which I think is a really good way of thinking about it. But he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine. So that's Alexander Fleming. Okay, our next one is the world of science. Any guesses on what might be some scientific discoveries by Scots people? You run out of ideas, you're fatigued now by how many things are invented by Scots people.
This one is hard, Lily.
Science is hard, right? Because there's so many different things. All right, let's take a look. Our first one is Saturn's rings. So you know the rings around Saturn? Of course, people had been able to see the rings of Saturn ever since telescopes were discovered. But they didn't know what they were made of. So it was a Scotsman, a very young Scotsman, actually, James Maxwell was only 25 years old, and he was a professor of science at Aberdeen University. He's another one who came from a very poor background. He had to leave school at 13, which was the age that most education ended, but went on to educate himself, became a professor very young. He discovered that the rings of Saturn were made of ice and rock. And some of the rocks are as small as a grain of sand, and some of the rocks are as big as a house. The next scientific discovery is color photography. And the same James Maxwell, who discovered Saturn's rings, also took the very first color photograph. And the first ever color photograph was of a tartan ribbon. The light bulb. Now, I know that many people think the light bulb was invented by Thomas Edison, but actually 22 people before Edison had invented the light bulb, or parts of the process to create a light bulb. But Edison was the first one to do it successfully commercially. So he was the first person to sell light bulbs. But in 1835, Scotsman James Lindsay demonstrated a working light bulb at a science fair. So that was 45 years before Edison, who did it in 1880. The trouble was that his mother, James Maxwell's mother, Lindsay's mother, got sick very soon after that. So he had to give up work to look after his sick mother. So that's why today everyone thinks Edison invented the light bulb, but no, it was a Scotsman. The disposable contact lenses were also invented by Scotsman Ron Hamilton in 1995. So he was an optician, an eye doctor, and he was very concerned that with the new contact lens technology, people weren't cleaning them properly. And he had a lot of patients coming with eye disease. So he knew that they had to make a disposable, one that you could wear once and throw away, so you didn't have to clean it. But up until then, it had been very, very, very expensive to do this. So he was the first person to create a way to make cheap but safe contact lenses that could be used only once and then thrown away. But my absolute favorite invention in the world of science, and maybe this is my favorite inventor, is the guy who discovered fingerprinting. So this is Henry Faulds. Now, in 1874, Henry Faulds came to Japan. Now, I don't know if you know much about Japanese history, but during the samurai period, the Edo period, Japan for 300 years had been closed to the outside world. It was illegal for foreigners to come to Japan, and it was illegal for Japanese people to leave Japan. So for 300 years, Japan was closed. But then round about the 1840s, some Portuguese sailors came to the very southernmost island in Japan, and that began the process of opening up Japan to the world. So in 1874, Henry Faulds, who again had been born to a very poor family, came to Japan. And he started a mission. So he was a Christian. He opened a Christian mission, and he did so many things. So his mission was a teaching hospital. He brought the knowledge of antiseptics to Japan. So he taught Japanese doctors the importance of cleaning things. And so he cut the number of people who died in hospitals drastically. He started the first blind society for the blind in Japan. He created lifeguard stations alongside canals to stop people drowning in canals. He cured a rabies epidemic that started with children playing with infected mice. So he cured that. He cured a cholera epidemic. He cured a plague that was affecting fish. I mean, he did so many things in the field of medicine. And his hospital, where his hospital was today, is now St. Luke's International Medical University Hospital, which is the #1 international hospital here in Japan. But that's not the the thing he's most famous for. The thing he's most famous for is fingerprinting. So while on vacation with a friend in Japan, he went to an archaeological dig, and they were digging up some pots from the Heian period, which is about 1,000 years ago here in Japan. And he noticed on the pots, you could see the fingerprints of the person who made the pot 1,000 years before. So he became very interested in fingerprints. And after examining lots and lots of people, he realized that fingerprints were unique. Nobody's fingerprints were exactly the same. So he discovered the science of fingerprinting. Now, a couple of years later, there was a break-in at the hospital. Someone broke into the hospital and stole some money. And the police arrested one of the staff working at the hospital. But Henry Faulds knew this person, and he knew he was a good guy and he couldn't have done it. So Henry Faulds dusted the area where the money was stolen, lifted a fingerprint, and showed the police that this fingerprint was different to the guy they had arrested. And so the police released him. So he's responsible for the first ever innocent person being released because of fingerprint technology. So he's my favorite, I think, inventor. Okay, let's have a look at the world of culture. Any ideas? Any famous Scots people? Do you know any famous Scots people? Oh, nobody knows any. Oh, so we've got one Scottish person.
They mentioned kilt again.
I guess it's cultural. Okay,
Yeah,
let's have a look.
That's me.
So are any of you fans of the Star Wars movies? Who's your favorite Obi-Wan Kenobi? The old Obi-Wan from the original movies or the young Obi-Wan from the new movies? I hope you said the young one because he's played by Scottish actor Ewan McGregor. Shrek is also Scottish. I mean, the actor who played Shrek was Canadian, but he used a Scottish accent for Shrek because he wanted an accent that could go from happy to angry very quickly and decided Scots was the accent. Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes was written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, a Scotsman, and he was actually based on a doctor, a Scottish doctor, John Maxwell, that Arthur Conan Doyle knew, who was very good at picking up things from small details. So he was written by a Scotsman and based on a Scotsman. Who's the best James Bond? Anyone got any ideas? Who's your favorite James Bond?
Peter Gaddis shouts out Sir Sean Connery or Sean.
Of course, Sean Connery, Scotsman, was the best James Bond. Sean Connery was actually a milkman. He was working as a milkman, but he did some modeling to earn extra money. And when I was at university, I lived on the street that Sean Connery used to deliver milk. So there you go, the best. And this one's a little bit controversial, Harry Potter. Now, Harry Potter was written by J.K. Rowling, who's English, and Harry Potter is English, but he was born in Scotland. J.K. Rowling was a poor single mother living in Scotland when she wrote the first Harry Potter stories. As I said before, Scotland is very cold, and J.K. Rowling didn't have enough money to pay for the electricity to heat her house every day. So what she would do with her baby daughter, she'd go to this coffee shop in Edinburgh and buy 1 cup of coffee, and she would stay there in the warm coffee shop all day and write the Harry Potter stories. Harry Potter, the stories were rejected by 12 publishers. And it wasn't until the 13th publisher gave the book to his daughter, and the daughter was like, oh, I want to read more. What happens next? And that's how Harry Potter was commissioned and published. So yeah, if J.K. Rowling hadn't lived in Scotland, the world might not have Harry Potter. All right, then, let's have a move on to sports. I don't know if any of you are sports fans. Any ideas what sports or sports innovations might have been invented by Scots people? We're not very famous for being good at sports. We just lost in the European Cup after the first
Come
time
on,
we
Andy,
qualified
Andy
in
Murray is Scottish.
Andy Murray, the tennis player, Scottish, yes. But again, lots of injuries. Okay, ice hockey. Ice hockey was invented by Scots people. Actually, we played a game in Scotland called shinty, which is like with a wooden stick. So all these Scots people emigrated to Canada and they wanted to play shinty, but there was no flat ground apart from the rivers that froze over in winter. So they would play it on the frozen rivers, and that's how ice hockey was born. Golf. Scotland is the home of golf. It was invented in Scotland, and Scotland is famous for its golf courses, including the Trump golf course in my hometown. Actually, he owns 3 golf courses in Scotland, I think. The first written record of someone playing a game of golf was in 1457. So very old game. Oh, we've got some comments there. International football. Now, most of football is English, I grant you, but the first ever international football game was played in Scotland. So a Scotsman wanted football to become more popular in Scotland, so he invited the English team to come up. So the first international game was held in Scotland. It was a 0-0 draw. Okay, someone's raised a hand. Does someone have a question?
Yes, somebody wants to talk and I don't know who it is.
Raisa.
Raisa. Let me allow her to talk. Please unmute, Raisa. See if you can do that now.
The surf?
Yes, go ahead.
I guess another sport is the surf. Maybe.
You mean surf?
Yeah.
Wow, Eli, did you know?
Yes. What?
Raisa is saying that surf was invented by the Scots.
Really? Oh my goodness, it's so cold in Scottish waters. I think you would die if you fell. Maybe that's why we invented surfing, so that we wouldn't fall in the water, because you'd die from the cold. Okay.
Thank you, Raisa, for participating. If anybody else wants to say something, just put up your hand.
Yeah, please just shout out. Okay, here's one for the Brazilian soccer fans. I don't know if you're familiar with Charles Miller. He's considered to be the father of Brazilian football. Charles Miller was born in Sao Paulo, but his father was Scottish as a railway engineer, and his mother was Brazilian. So it's said that he is the father of Brazilian football, but actually the real father of Brazilian football is Thomas Donohoe. Thomas Donohoe was a Scotsman who emigrated to Brazil in 1894, and he played football matches in Bangu, is that correct? For the textile company that he worked for. And the first ever recorded football match in Brazil was actually Thomas Donohoe's company football match. And that was 1 year before Charles Miller had his first football match in Brazil. So you can Google them, they're both fathers of Brazilian football. Okay, my favorite invention in this area is the football pitch dugout. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the dugout, but you know, at the side of the football pitch, the manager and the coach and the other players will sit in a small kind of area with a cover. Yeah? That's the dugout. And the dugout was invented in my hometown, Aberdeen, an Aberdeen football club, by a guy called Donald Coleman. Donald Coleman had been a football player, but in the 1930s, he was the coach at Aberdeen Football Club, and he invented the dugout. And many people think the dugout is there to shelter the coach and the players from the bad weather, but actually that's not true. The reason that the dugout is there is that Coleman wanted a way to be able to see the footwork of the players on the field and to analyze their play. So that's why he invented the dugout. Okay, so let's finish off before you can ask some questions with some surprising things that were founded by Scots people. The first one is the Bank of England. As I said before, Scots people love money. The second one is the Bank of France, started by a Scots person. The Japanese Navy was started by Thomas Glover of Aberdeen in Scotland. Australian rules football were written, the rules for the football were written by a Scotsman. And the New York Herald was started by a Scotsman. So even things that aren't anything to do with Scotland were all invented by Scots people. So that's it, Scotland. We proved that you don't have to be big or rich or powerful to achieve great things. Does anybody have any questions? Or what's your favorite thing or most surprising thing that was started or founded by a Scots person?
I think people are very shy to speak, but we had a lot of people
With too many
participating. Mady says she's impressed. Mady, do you want to say something? Caio, can you unmute Mady? Can you unmute Renato so they can just unmute their microphones and say hello to Eli and just Eli, I want to say that this was an amazing talk. This was really awe-inspiring. But Caio, can you hand it to Mady and to Renato so they can say something?
Yes, they are ready to go.
Hi, Mary.
Oh,
Hi, I'm very impressed. I don't have no idea about Scotland people, and I love it.
Thank you very much.
hello.
Hi.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Very cool things. Just incredible. And for me, just surprised me, especially in the science and medicine field. That was great achievement. And
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
for
you should
human
Google it
beings.
because it's especially, yes, science and medicine. There was a long list. It was difficult to pick something. So also, for example, hypnotism was invented by Scots people and the kaleidoscope. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting things in that area.
This was Renato Santos, sorry. Renato Santos who spoke to you, Eli. Paola, would you like to say something? Paola and Vitor Guedes, Caio, can you unmute them?
There you go, Vitor, and there you go, Paula.
Go, Vitor, then Paola, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi,
Hi.
Go,
Victor.
Vitor.
Hi, I'm very thankful for your presentation. Recently, I was studying about Scotland, about
really?
about the Highlands
Okay.
and the Mac clans, the
Mhm.
fights, the wars.
Yeah.
Well, it was very interesting. So, and this week I received the mail about the presentation. So is Destiny.
Yeah, we Scots people love fighting. That's true. Have you ever been to Scotland?
Never. I was planning to travel in the future.
Ah, well, I hope you can visit someday, but just take warm clothes. It's very cold and
Yeah.
very wet.
And Sky Island.
Oh, Sky's beautiful, really beautiful.
Thank you very much, Vitor, for
Thank you, Vitor.
participating. Paula, just say hello, Paula. You're so eager to speak. Paula, say hi.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Hello, Paula.
I'm very shy.
Where are you from, Paula? Where are you in Brazil?
I'm from São Paulo.
Okay, nice. What did you like the most about all the inventions from Scotland?
Obvious football. I'm
Okay,
a great
yes,
fan
yes.
about football.
I didn't know either, Paula. Do you believe I didn't know it was not Charles Miller? It was the other guy. It was Thomas
Okay.
Donahue, right, Eli?
Well, he was the first, but probably Charles Miller did more to spread it. But yeah.
I know that that football was invented for Scotland.
Yeah.
Scottish, I don't know, but I really don't know what the name of this inventor. Oh my God, I'm shaking now.
But you're speaking very well. You should speak more. You're doing well, Paula. Congrats.
I'll try.
Yes, I have two more people who want to speak, Kyle. Who are they?
It's Mary and Victor. I don't know if they. Mary's with the hand raised again.
Let's have
Mary.
Mary first.
Yes, you're on mute.
I would like to know why people from Scotland are Mac. Everybody calls Mac. I would like to know about this.
Mac means family or clan. So the Macmillan clan, so the Macs are the family of the Millans. So it means family.
Mary, did you understand? Because I had no idea that was the meaning of Mac. Did you understand, Mary?
Yes.
It's like the Mac Silvas are the Silvas. The Mac Fernandes are the Fernandes. Something like that.
Yeah,
Very
the
nice.
family or the clan of.
Very nice. Vitor, it's your turn.
Yeah, it's just to say I'm from São Paulo, and here in São Paulo we have a square called Charles Miller. It's next
really?
yes,
It's
it's
true,
next
it's
to a
true.
famous stadium, fucking movie stadium.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
Okay.
And you know what, Vitor, do you know what the capital of Scotland is?
It's Edinburgh.
Yeah,
Oh,
ask
beautiful.
Ellie to pronounce it, because we never know how to pronounce her capital city.
Okay. Well, actually, Vitor's pronunciation was great. You can call it Edinburgh or Edinburgh. Edinburgh.
That's
But
very
Edinburgh
hard.
is also okay. But
Edinburgh
Edinburgh
and
is wrong.
yeah, Edinburgh. Okay.
Yeah, Edinburgh. Yeah.
Caio, anybody else wants to say something?
I don't believe so. Mary's still with the hand raised, but I don't know if she wants to talk about
Mary,
something.
do you wanna add something else?
No, thank you.
Okay, Eli. So we're gonna ask you to close your fantastic speech. Go ahead, Eli.
Okay. So yeah, thank you very much. It was very interesting to speak to you all. I hope that, going forward, you'll maybe think about Scotland a little bit differently than you did before the presentation. And I'd be really interested to hear about some Brazilian inventions, what Brazil has given the world. Thank you.
Yeah, that was great, guys. Let me open my camera. Yeah, we would need a student to come up and step up and speak about Brazil and talk about Brazilian inventions, because that would be awesome. That would be fantastic. But I would like to thank everybody who joined us, who came here today and was part of this talk. The next one is going to be next month. I want to thank Eli once again. It was fantastic. We loved it. And thank you very much, everyone. Don't forget to answer the survey after you finish the talk, because we really appreciate your feedback. And thank you, Eli, very much once again for your talk.
You're very welcome. It was nice to meet you all. Thank you. Bye.
Caio, I think it's your turn.
Thank you, guys. It's a pleasure to provide this kind of event to you. It's the second one, so we're still learning how to make this a better experience to you. And any feedback that you would like to give, you can give direct to us or to your teacher. I don't know if all of you are students, but some of them I know that are students, so you can give feedbacks to your teachers and suggest subjects as well. So this event is for you, and the idea is for you to practice in English. Hopefully we will have some other events for other languages as well. But this is the second option, and we are always trying to bring good content to you, and a possibility to practice your English with native speakers, which is really good, and to understand different accents. And this is the beauty of the language, it's different from each person. So that's it. Many thanks for everyone that have joined us today, and that's it. Many thanks, Luis, many thanks, Eli, and for all of you.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Giovanna, and have a nice evening, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.